This strategy has made game developers millions of dollars. And in this video, I'll break down exactly the marketing and monetization tactics that these top publishers use to achieve massive profits. These are the same methods I've implemented for the industry giants. My name is Shafiq Nasseri, and the last 7 years, I've worked with the industry leaders such as Meta, Voodoo, Axie Infinity, and Immutable, and I've contributed to getting to billions of downloads and hundreds of millions in revenue. But before we start breaking down the tactics and strategies, there are 3 key metrics you need to understand, and once you do, everything in this video will make sense, and you'll get a light bulb where you'll understand what mobile gaming profitability is and how publishers take advantage of it. So the first thing is the CPI. CPI is the cost per install. What that means is how much is a publisher spending to acquire a user. So for example, let's say they run an ad and they spend $10 and they get 10 users. What that means is their CPI is $1 because you would divide the total spent by the number of installs. Secondly is the lifetime value. Lifetime value is how much revenue a user that installed the game brings in. And this coincides together with CPI because the way you would calculate profitability is LTV subtracted by CPI. And the third concept, which is super important, is called the ARPU. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it the wrong way, but the acronym for ARPU is the average revenue per paying user. And this is super important because it helps predict the LTV. So bringing all of these 3 metrics together, publishers understand whether their game will be profitable and if they should spend more money on it to grow it, or if they should just kill a game or descale from running ads to it. Because it doesn't make sense to have a high CPI with a low LTV and then keep working on a game or keep spending ad revenue on it. So now that you understand the 3 key metrics that a publisher optimizes for, I'm going to start breaking down from a user acquisition standpoint up to a monetization and how a publisher tries their best to optimize each step of the way. We'll start off with user acquisition because usually it's the first step. You need to get a user to install the game to be able to monetize them. Publishers really care about this step because the lower they get their CPI to, the higher chances of being profitable in the game. So what they would do is they would create hundreds of ad creatives. Ad creatives are basically just gameplay footage of the game that they run ads for and they try to acquire users. Usually publishers have tens of creative managers working on different concepts. There are 3 types of ad creatives that work. The first one is where they record a footage of the gameplay where someone is losing. They keep losing. Why do they do that? So the reason why they would film a footage where someone just keeps losing is because let's say you're a user scrolling on Facebook and you see an ad of a puzzle where it seems simple, but the player playing it keeps failing. They're unable to understand how to solve it. The first thing psychologically you'll get is, that's easy, I can do it, right? What happens then, you're like, let me download this so that I can prove to myself I can actually solve this puzzle that the other person could not. So these are very effective types of ads. They do not work for every genre of games. It depends on the genre. But for puzzle games, this works great because it's very clear how to solve it, but the player is not being able to solve it, so it will push the user to download the game. That's one type of ad creatives, which is called the loser ad creative. The second type of ad creative where someone is just a master at the game. So they're just like winning that level as if it was nothing. The psychology behind it is basically you're watching a very fun gameplay where someone is just skipping through, let's say, Subway Surfer, right? Like where there's a footage of the guy running around and being able to get to a very high score. And psychologically, that will push you to want to play the game because you're like, I can beat him even though he's really good. And then the third type of ad creative is called the Noob vs Pro, where they would put 2 footage, one on the left, one on the right, and then they show a mixture of the first 2 ad creative types, which is the winner and the loser, but they would put it into one creative. And then there's a 4th one I didn't mention, an ad creative, but this one is not used on every ad network. This is called the playable ads. What a playable ad exactly is basically you enter into an ad, you feel like it's a video, but then they'll give you control of the video. So you can actually play as if you're a character there, as if you're actually playing the game. So they'll give you a taste of a level, and then when you're playing, the tactic for them, the publishers, to optimize on people installing is they let you play for like 30 seconds and then instantly there's something fun to do and they'll push you to go to the App Store to download it. So you cannot continue that level once it gets fun. So that's one of the tactics they do. So to summarize, there are 4 types of ad creatives: the winner, the loser, the mixture of the both, and the playable ad. No one talks about playable ads on YouTube. I'm not sure why, but it's a highly effective type of ads because it really pushes players to want to continue the journey of playing the game. Now that we mentioned from a user acquisition standpoint, okay, you might say, I know this, I know these types of ad creatives, but there's one more tactic that not a lot of people talk about, but top publishers really focus on it, and it's the App Store optimization page. You would think about it in an e-commerce where you will try to find the best keywords, the best images on your product page so that Google can recommend you. And this is one type of user acquisition, right? So what an ASO is, which is App Store optimization, the way publishers do it is that they funnel in from the ad creative. Let's say someone played a level, they would put the images and the description of the game and the video of the game that relates to the ad creative. The player feels like they're going on a journey and they're not being scammed, right? Because there are some ad creatives where the video footage is not really the gameplay. So they will take you to this funnel where you see the ad and then you go to the App Store and then you see that the images are really what you actually just watched. So that will increase your chances of downloading the game. So if the App Store is really optimized, that will decrease the CPI. Not a lot of people talk about this, but App Store optimization definitely decreases CPI because once someone is sent to the App Store page from an ad, that's not 100% sure they will download. But once the App Store is really optimized, it decreases the CPI and increases the conversion rate. That's one way of looking at ASO. The second way of looking at ASO is when someone is searching on the App Store and they write some type of genre of game. If your store is optimized, Apple will most likely recommend your game to play just based on keywords, etc. Okay, so now that we talked about how publishers do their best to decrease the CPI, to increase their profitability, let's look into once someone downloaded the game, right? Okay, now the CPI is done. There's nothing to look into for now. Now we need to monetize the user. They already installed the game. So the strategy to it is either through ad revenue or in-app purchases. These are the 2 most common ways of monetizing in a game. Some hyper-casual games show way too many ads because they know their users are not paying type of users. And then in the more casual, hybrid casual game, those users are more mature. Those users want to spend more time with your game. They want to play for longer than a month in the game. So they would most likely purchase items. And the tactics a lot of the publishers and the great games do is every level you play, you use energy bars. Think Candy Crush, right? Every time you're playing Candy Crush or even Dream Blast from Angry Birds, every time you play, you're using an energy bar or a health, right? And every time you lose that limit, right? So let's say you start with 5 and then every time you play and you lose 1 life or you lose 1 energy bar. And this tactic is great because they let you win a lot in the first levels and then they start making it a little more complicated, meaning you lose more. And then the only way to gather more energy bars is to wait for 24 hours once those 5 are used. And the first step for someone that really loves the game will be, I want to play now. I don't want to wait for tomorrow. I don't want to wait. So they will create 3 types of in-app purchases. There'll be one where you will buy, let's say, 5 energy bars for 99 cents. Let's just say that. These are just random numbers. Second type, which is a medium, if you think about it from a fast food way, where they put a small, medium, and large, and then they put the large not as much more expensive than a medium. They're very close. They use these tactics the same way in mobile games, where the small one is 99 cents, and then the medium one would be somewhere around 1.99, and then the medium one would most likely have like 10 hearts and then 50,000 coins, for example. And then the third one, which is the most expensive one, they would put at 249, which is very close to the 199. And why they do this? Because psychologically, you will feel like you're getting a deal, right? It's like, if I buy a medium now and then I need another medium, that's going to cost me $4. But now I can just buy the 249 for both. You'll feel like it's a deal, but most likely it's just a tactic, a psychological tactic to get you to buy something you most likely don't need. So this is the concept of it, right? Like in-app purchases where there are three types of products where they're very similar. They just increase the numbers of them, and then they don't increase too much the price between them, the price difference. Of course, there's rewarded ads. So let's say energy bar is gone. You'll get one chance to get an energy bar by watching rewarded ads. Rewarded ads are super important in revenue because they have high ECPMs, meaning the publisher gets paid more if someone watches a rewarded ad compared to a banner ad or an interstitial ad. But I just want to be very clear. None of what I've said matters if the framework and the tools integrated are not done properly. What I mean by that, you need to integrate analytics tools and MMPs. MMPs stand for Mobile Measurement Partners, and I'll get into that very soon. But let's start with analytics. Everything I've mentioned without proper tracking of events doesn't matter. Let me explain this. So let's say someone downloaded the game and the CPI is low, but as soon as they start playing the game, they drop off. You don't know why, right? Because you have not integrated analytics properly. And that's why publishers pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to analytics platforms that makes the tools for them to be able to track these things and visualize these things, right? So if someone drops off as soon as they download the game or the first day, everything I mentioned about IIP doesn't matter because no one is playing the first day and then buying stuff and not coming back tomorrow, right? So I'm talking about the users that drop off, but you don't know exactly where they're dropping off. Are they dropping off because they don't like the game? Are they dropping off because they've played 10 levels and then the 10th level was way too complicated, so they gave up? Or is there a drop off because they didn't understand how to play the game? And all of this can be fixed by the right analytics tracked. I've literally worked most of my life integrating the analytics tools, A/B testing tools, MMPs, and ad networks to hundreds of games. So basically that was my role. My role was to optimize analytics, optimize ad revenue monetization. And this was my job, basically, integrate these tech tools onto every game we launched. So I really understand this concept. So the way you would integrate analytics properly and what a publisher would do is they will not build everything in-house. They would use an external vendor such as Amplitude, such as Game Analytics, right? And each one has their advantages, but they most likely do the same thing at the end of it. The goal of it is that a game publisher would track user behavior through each step. What they do is, when someone opens the app, what is the first button they click, first level, like how many people complete level 1, level 2, every level, and then they'll be able to get custom dashboards where they create funnels where it shows a user journey throughout the game. So if a user is dropping off at level 5, a publisher will know there's a problem at level 5, right? So they would either A/B test and try out different versions of level 5, or they can even remove completely level 5. And this is very, very, very important. And I really want to make a full video on how to actually integrate these tools properly. As I mentioned, once you track everything from spending, from watching ads, and then to gameplay, you track user behavior, what they like doing in the game, then you'll be able to create offers in game that a user would not say no to spend because that's what they enjoy mostly, right? And from an ad revenue standpoint, the less churn you have in your funnel, the higher revenue you get. So this really matters to increase LTV. And that's why I wanted to talk more on the analytics side before I jump to MMPs, because LTV matters when people don't churn. If people churn, then you're not making high enough LTV to be profitable. So let's say you spent $1 to acquire a user, but user churns on the first day. So even if it's just ad revenue, you will not make $1 with that user, because mathematically it's not possible, because usually CPMs are between $1 to $3, and they need to really watch those ads 1,000 times for you to make $1. So yeah, that's clarified now. Now I want to talk about MMPs, which is the mobile measurement partner. And everything I mentioned about CPI and LTV is tracked through MMPs. MMP examples can be Adjust, Apps Flyer. And what these do is they handle the user journey. They tell you this user installed from this ad, and then you'll be able to optimize your whole flow and funnel of user acquisition, right? So if you know that this ad brought this specific user, you'll know that this CPI is lower on this ad, and then you'll be able to scale those ads based on those numbers. Without MMPs, good luck trying to figure out where the install came from. It's almost impossible to do it by yourself, so that's why MMPs help a lot with this. Let's move on to ad networks. I've seen a lot of videos online about this is how you make ad revenue, integrate AdMob or integrate Unity ads. That's simple, right? But that's not the way a great publisher that makes millions of dollars in a game, that's not their setup. Their setup is to use some sort of platform that combines all of these mediations, such as AdMob, Unity, Facebook, Snapchat, all of them into one platform. And then this platform will most likely have an algorithm that decides which ad network should I show this user to for highest payout, right? So when you see on YouTube videos how to monetize my mobile game, usually you'll see AdMob Unity ads, but the recommendations and what the big publishers use are two different platforms. One is called Iron Source and one is called AppLovin. These are the masters of monetization and ad revenue. What they do is you bring in all the mediation into the platform, and then the platform decides who to show this ad from, right? So if Facebook is more profitable, they will most likely show ad from Facebook. So choosing like ad networks one by one does not make sense, but boosting profitability, it will be using these types of platforms. So to bring it back all together, we've talked about user acquisition, monetization tactics, ad creative tactics, MMPs, analytics. So there was a lot of things we've discussed. I haven't gotten into details on each one of them, and leave a comment below if you really want to focus on one specific thing and I can make a video about it. So if you want to learn more about, let's say, analytics tracking and how to do it properly to optimize profitability, or if you want to learn more about MMPs and ad networks, leave a comment below. By implementing the strategies I've shared, you're going to increase your chances of really launching a game as a publisher. You'll understand how to scale a game, how to track funnels, how to actually figure out where churn is coming from, and you'll be able to monetize your game way more profitably. So by implementing these strategies, you're not into just making a game, you're now into the league of making multi-game, multi-million-dollar business. I'm super excited because these concepts, like I've been integrating them for so long, and a lot of the game studios really do not understand how they work. And a lot of the times, we as the publishers are usually the ones that implement everything for them. So it's basically a black box where they don't have to worry about. But hopefully, these tips and information and concepts help you understand more on really how growth and scaling in games work. On my last video, I talked about how to actually get to the stage where you can start scaling with a publisher and how to kill a game if it's not successful. So feel free to watch it. I'll leave it here, and hit the subscribe button if you want more videos about games growth and how to make money with games. Thank you.